Hey everybody! I'd like to welcome everybody into Jam and Shred Dojo with Master Lee. I am Christopher Lee Weiss, aka Master Lee, here on Junkie Bass, and we're going to do some jamming this evening. Dude, I really hope you guys are going to have a good time. Sit back and relax. We're going to learn some music. We're going to have some fun improvising some stuff. Hopefully have some really cool stuff happen. And hopefully have not too many crash and burns, as we say. So, but again, always have a good time, man. Let's go ahead and just get started. Let's warm up a little bit and just do a little basic jamming. Ah, that was a nice start. Definitely a good jam. Using B minor pentatonic over that one. Actually, in D major too. I'm thinking more of B Aeolian. But using B pentatonic to kind of remove the two notes from the major scale, kind of like we talked about last time. Just trying to get that, breaking the sound up between the two jams. Let's do another one in B minor. Actually, check out another one. This one will be a little heavier. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that one just in a second. Actually, another B minor jam. Pretty popular guitar keys, right? Kind of playing. I think most of my jams are, at least the ones I got set up right now for today anyway, are mostly, in E minor. Has a really popular guitar key, right? E is the low note on the guitar. I like to play minor too because it kind of gives it that kind of like heavy, crunchy sound, Like we got that. A Testament sound, kind of, at least from their first couple of records, until they started drop tuning. Just going over real quick, kind of the keys that we're playing here. I'm basically playing in A minor, right, which is going to be either A natural minor, which is all natural notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'll use A Dorian sometimes, or throw in an F sharp, which makes it G major. And then we move on to B minor, which is basically that with the F sharp with the C sharp added in, right? So B minor, D major. And that's for the most part most of the keys that I'm playing. And I am going to play a few things in C sharp minor, which would be E major. That's going to have 4 sharps, But again, it doesn't really matter. The idea here is that as you learn the guitar, it's actually kind of an easier thing to do if you start off. Obviously, you can learn a lot of patterns and play patterns. For example, the pentatonic scale, a lot of people will learn it as what they call a box shape, right? So in this case, if I'm playing B, and because of the keys we were just playing, that would be this. And most guitar players, when they first learn it, they actually just learn it by the fret numbers, right? So they're going to learn 7, 10, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10. Anyway, no problem with that. If that's the first way that you learn that scale, go ahead and do that. There are no rules to this, right? You can still use your hearing to figure out what notes sound good as you kind of play through that. And honestly, most of the notes in the pentatonic scale, in fact, all the notes on the pentatonic scale, usually if it's played over pentatonic ideas, really just fit and sound really well. But ultimately, as you become a better musician, you kind of want to really know what those notes that you're actually playing are, right? So when you play this note, you want to know that it's an A. You want to know that that's F sharp, right? You want to know that's D and E. Again, you just want to know those particular notes. Actually, if you learn the notes, it actually makes playing in the keys actually easier. Even though it may be a little bit more of a daunting task to kind of learn the notes at first, once you know the notes, you can shift and change keys pretty easily. For example, just in the case of playing A minor. So like if I was going to play A minor and I just kind of look at this just area of the fretboard right here, and I'm just going to start on D. I play D, then I would go to C, and then B. And then if I had to play like in something like in the key of D major, though, I would change that C to C sharp. But because I already know where the C is, I can move it up to C sharp pretty easily. But again, that's kind of the concept of being able to learn those notes on the guitar. It just makes learning the whole thing easier. Now, easier said than done, right? I've been playing the guitar for a long time, and that's one of the fun things about it is that there's always something new to learn, always something new to try. At least you hope there is anyway, right? If you conquered it, you'd be bored and you want to go do something else. You cannot actually master the guitar, right? You can, now again, you can be a fantastic player, but even if you talk to guys like Steve Vai or Joe Satriani, if they'd mastered it, they'd quit putting albums out, right? They don't, because again, music is expression. It's not about how well you play physically, it's just about expressing yourself. So, with that being said, let's do another jam. Kind of started off with a lot of B minor there today, which is very different than what we did the last couple of days, right? Kind of started off with E minor. Again, tonality wise, we're using a lot of the same intervals here. We're just kind of shifting them around different root notes or tonal centers, right? Again, a lot of the patterns that I'm playing and a lot of the things that I'm playing, it's just kind of based off that idea. You really want to be able to play licks and patterns. For example, you can take that pentatonic scale that we played earlier, or that I was playing earlier. You'll hear me do this a lot, right? So in the case of playing that scale, let me just play the scale again. The scale will go. And what I'll do is I'll create a pattern using the scale. So what I'll do is maybe I'll play a pattern like this. And then what I'll do is I'll physically run the pattern through the scale. And I can do this in a couple of ways, but first way would just actually be staying with that box shape and just kind of moving up in the position, right? The next way would actually be to kind of play the scale kind of backwards or forwards. Like, for example, I can go... So again, that same idea where I'm going like... And then I can even extend that pattern by maybe changing that last note. So even if I'm going... Maybe I'll change that the high note. I'll go... Right? And just keep moving that around just to kind of get the sound of it. Now, obviously... What I'm really trying to do, though, is create some melodies over this. And the melodies actually are going to focus more around just the notes of that B chord or the other chords that are in there. In this case, I think the last jam that we played over was, had multiple chords in it. But that's why the pentatonic scale works so well also, is because it's technically all of what we would call the target notes of a B minor 7 chord. Again, we have the 4th added into it as well, right? E, which would be the 11. Or the 4, however you want to look at it. So that note we have to be a little careful with, but it still sounds good. So in this case of playing like a, let's give me a clean channel here. So like if I played B minor 7, and I play that pentatonic scale, boy, it fits real nicely right over that chord because again, it's the same notes that are in that chord, right? The idea of being able to play over all of the chords means that you kind of have to know whether or not that scale itself fits over those chords, and if not, you have to change the notes to that particular pattern. That's something that we talked a little bit about before, and I don't have that pattern with us today, but we'll do that here on a future show, is that we'll actually put together something really simple, like in this case, I'll play B minor 7, and we'll go to like E7, so when I'm soloing, you should be able to hear like those chords without the chords going on, right? So if I'm playing the chords, so I'll start soloing using like, those particular tones. So I'll maybe play the B, you can hear those chords change. You can hear with these two, and you can hear this chord with those tones. We'll get into the specifics of the notes as we go, but again, we just want to kind of enjoy the jams for right now and enjoy kind of warming up and playing some music. So let's do another one. All right, cool. And that one's another one where, even though it's technically E minor, I play some E Dorian over that. So again, what does that really do? That just is the difference between C and C sharp, right? So sometimes I might play this pattern using C right there, using the C tone. Sometimes I'll do this using C sharp. Again, the note technically from E's position, C is the 6, right? So it's either the major 6 or the minor 6. It's not really a chord tone in the case of these particular chords. I'm not playing over any 6/9 chords. I'm not playing over any 13s. So this technically isn't really a target note of the particular chord. But again, it's kind of using the pitch axis as we talked about earlier. I'm going to kind of mess with that just a little bit with the pitch axis later when we kind of play with the bass, just the straight ahead E minor bass track, because there's just a lot of E in that. We'll go ahead and kind of push it more towards the major sound. We'll use like G sharp instead of G over the E to give it a little bit more of a major sound. Again, another shout out to Joe Satriani and the pitch axis. What a great concept that was. I don't know if he came up with it. I'm just as a guitar player. That's when I was a kid. I read about him using that and how he used it and explained in the Guitar magazine. But again, a really cool concept. In fact, actually, I've really liked, because of that, I liked a lot of my background patterns to not be so descript a lot of times. I don't want them to be specifically major or minor, so that as a lead player, I can actually change that, right? If there's a minor chord in the background, in the case like E minor, I'm kind of stuck playing. Because if I play the major, in that particular case, you don't really notice it, obviously, right? But if I play G and G sharp, yeah, they're kind of harsh together. Or so if the rhythm guy or gal is playing like E major, and they're playing that G sharp, and I play the G sharp with it, sounds great. If he or she is playing the E minor and I play the G natural with the G natural, that sounds really good too. It's right. It's really when the chord change starts to in this case, basically what I'm doing is I'm gonna eliminate the third. So I'm gonna play basically an E power chord. So that gives me the opportunity to play either losing my guitar pick there. Gives me a chance to play G, or it gives me a chance to give me actually G sharp. Right. So again, that's just one of those things that we're going to do. I want to thank the new person that just joined. Thanks for following, man. Hope you enjoy yourself and you learn some stuff and you have a good time. So, as far as just like playing some basic jams and some things that we're actually going to play, the ideas of the concept of the pitch axis, let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. Let me bring up that kind of bass track. Let's bring up that bass. Okay, so in this case of the bass, I'm going to play, we'll start with E minor, right? We'll go. Now what I'm doing is I'm pushing the major. To minor. Now we'll go to major. Now, on that particular one, I really was pushing the pitch axis, right? So in the case of like E minor, so think about this, right? So I'm playing E minor, which is basically E, G, and then I kind of push G or E major. So I changed the G to the G sharp, right? And then I actually started playing some E Phrygian in there, kind of like right at the end. If you kind of notice, I was playing E and F. I was going. So I used 3 different E modes actually over that particular E jam. Now I can get away with that like we were talking about earlier because the bass guitar is really just playing the E note, right? So, and again, you can kind of hear that if I play this on clean here. Like if I play E, I'm just going to kind of drone the E note here. So if I play E, G sharp with A, gives me that E major. Sometimes, because there's only E there, I'll go to G instead of G sharp. And then sometimes I'll use that F instead of the F sharp. But again, that's the concept of the pitch axis. Again, you know, obviously if the chord change is in that one particular key and the chords are kind of spelling it out, you know, like, so if I'm playing, in this case, like if I do a chord change that's like, that I'm going to have a hard time pushing E major over because I played so many Gs, I'm kind of spelling out E minor. So again, hard to use the pitch axis on that particular jam. But again, it's one of those things that if you spend enough time, you know, kind of making sure your backgrounds are vague, right? All that really needs to be there is a cool rhythm and it's just some basic tones. I'm going to do a jam here in just a second, which is really just 2 chords, right? And that's going to be another concept that we talked a little bit about as far as like, you know, the modes. What is a mode? You know, when you think about playing music, case in point, like if I want to play like a real basic, let me get kind of a clean signal happening here. So, you know, a really common chord change we always hear from everybody playing, you know, G, C, and D, right? You know, classic tunes, right? You know, Sweet Home Alabama is basically those 3 chords backwards. Right? So, and again, you know, going forwards, you know, we can basically play, you know, and really we can get into 1,000 songs, which we eventually will. But for right now, let's just simplify the discussion. If I force the resolve to the first chord, meaning that I play it first, like G. So if I play G more times than all the other chords, probably start on G, throw in the other 2, and then come back to G, you're going to hear the other 2 chords in relation to G. And so since G is the first chord, we call that the first mode. The technical name of the first mode is the Ionian mode, but it would sound like this. And see, when I hit the G chord, it gives that sense of resolve, right? Sounds like it's finished. We can trick the ear, though. For example, I'm going to use those same 3 chords, but I'm going to make it sound like the D resolves, right? So if I go, and again, how would I do that is I'm going to start with D instead of starting with G, and then I'll play D more times than the other chords and then use the other 2 in there. So I would have something like this. That's going to sound definitely more like what they would call rock sounding as opposed to the major. Now, they both sound fantastic, actually. But one actually has a little bit of a slighter rock sound to it, the D one. We're going to do a little D Mixolydian jam here. Now, this one's actually pretty simple. It's really just a D to a C, right? The D actually I'm going to change. I'm going to actually add just a little note here onto the, you know, the bottom of the G. So I'm basically playing D major. I'm going to add in G, right? Well, let's jam over that one. Let's take a listen to that one. That's definitely a fun jam too. That one again, these are all, again, that was the same as G major. So that's kind of the bonus of that, right? So I'm going to go back and play one of the jams that I did earlier because we can all use the same scales over all of these particular things. That's what's so great about all of, being able to play all of these different jams is that when you learn a scale shape, you can kind of use it. So anything, if I'm playing the G major scale, and we play something that's in D mixolydian or the fifth mode of G major, even though the root, well, not really the root, well, the root note does change, but the target notes change, excuse me. The target notes do change, but I can still use that same pattern. Right? So again, same concept and the same idea as far as we play. Let's go ahead and do that E minor jam again, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. So let's start this up again here so you can hear, and then I'm going to kind of talk over this while we're playing. So here's the old one, the one I just played. So this was D mixolydian, right? This is basically D to C. Actually, I may need to check my tuning there real fast. Close enough. So let's jam over that one again. So I'm basically playing G major, right? Now, since that's G major, D mixolydian, I'm now going to actually play over something that's in E minor again. So the E minor change is going to be like E, C, A, B, throw C back into B, and then repeat. So let's take a listen to that one. And again, I'm going to use G major again because it's the same set of notes. It's going to resolve and sound a little different, but I can still use the same notes. You know, and again, that same kind of concept. I use the same scales that I did before. We'll kind of maybe switch things up here a little bit. We're going to change keys, but again, I'm going to use the same scale, and again, you know, same scale intervals, but I'm going to change keys. So in this case, I was playing in E, which was, you know, here, either E minor or E minor pentatonic, or E blues. Now we're going to actually move to C sharp minor, which is actually E major. So C sharp minor is really just kind of moving everything I just did on E back 3 frets to start on C sharp. Again, kind of one of those things that you really want to know where the actual notes are on the guitar. But again, you know, you don't have to do all of this stuff when you learn to play. Man, you know, it's all about just you, right? Just express yourself. If you don't know what you're doing, dude, that don't matter. Pick up the guitar and play. It doesn't matter, you know. If musicians, look, man, there's only one rule. There's music theory, but there's only one music fact, okay? Here's the music fact. Sounds good is good. That's all that matters. If you play something and you like the way it sounds, it's good. It doesn't matter if you know what you're playing or not. All that matters is that you're enjoying yourself. If you play something and you don't like the way it sounds, change it, you know. Just noodle around on the guitar. Play one note, play another note. If you don't like the way that next note sounds, move it up or down, you know. There is no rules to this. That's what makes music so great, right? We don't have to actually play anything in particular. What we want to do is just kind of express ourselves emotionally, right? That's why the blues is so great, you know. And when I say blues, remember, blues is everything. Whether it's the actual blues, right? And I think a lot of people think when they think blues, they think more of like what we would call 12-bar blues, right? So in the case of like C sharp, we'll do like, you know, C minor blues. We'll do C instead of C sharp. So if I was to do like, you know, let me get kind of a clean on there. That's what most people consider to be like traditional blues. But as a metal guy, man, blues is everywhere, right? So like if I was to do, let's do just some basic blues patterns that I can think of like kind of off the top of my head. Enter Sandman is a blues pattern. Just listen to the notes. Cowboys from Hell, again, by Pantera. That's the blues pattern. They're all blues patterns. Blues is what we play. If you like rock, if you like metal, obviously if you like blues and you like jazz, you're playing blues. So we owe everything that we do to the blues, right? So keeping in kind of step with the blues, let's jam a blues track. right, yeah, that was a good jam. And the blues, really allow us to kind of stretch out. That's what's great about the blues. I'm shredding over them because, I can't help myself. And again, we talked about this kind of before. When you think more about when I'm playing, the guitar is kind of like driving a sports car for me, so it's kind of really hard for me to lay off the gas. But that's what I like. Again, that's what I like. Everybody likes different kinds of music. Everybody likes different pacing. But again, that's one of the things that when you think about playing, if you don't play well, man, the blues is so great that you can play like little phrases. Obviously, if you're trying to play some sort of crazy heavy metal, speed metal thing, and you got to play a whole bunch of notes, yeah, you may be limited by how well you can actually play. But if you can't play really, really well, I'm telling you, you can really get away with some really cool stuff on the blues. Just kind of, case in point here real fast, just take a listen to this. So I can just play like just a few notes, right? I could go... Right? And so that really works out nice to be able to play just a few basic things over the blues. You can actually get some pretty, cool rock jams and stuff to kind of do that with too. But in the case of just being able to play something, right? You got to play something. You got to start somewhere. You got to basically just enjoy yourself playing music. Don't practice for 15 years like, well, I'll almost be ready next week. Man, don't worry about it, Play. If somebody's going to make fun of you or laugh at you for playing, hey, man, that's their problem. You're the one enjoying yourself. You're the one going out there. And the only way you get better at this is just by playing. I make mistakes all the time, right? Some of them more noticeable than others, right? But again, that's kind of the fun of improvising. The fun of improvising, and I'm always going to say that, is like, it's the thrill of kind of jumping out of the airplane. You jump out the airplane, and hopefully you pull the cord and the chute opens, and you land safely, and you get a big thrill out of it, man. But sometimes that chute doesn't open, and you hit the ground, and you crash and burn, and that's okay. That's all part of improvising, We can pre-rehearse music all we want, and we can play the same thing over and over again, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've been in many bands where that's my job, is to play exactly what the audience is paying for me to, to listen to what I'm playing, and I'm totally fine with that, As a musician, though, I really enjoy playing something new and actually, kind of jamming with the musicians that I'm playing with. If somebody's actually, especially guys I've never played with before, boy, that's a whole lot of fun. If you get together with some guys or some gals that you've not played with before and they play stuff that, you're just not used to hearing, you'd be surprised at how it changes your playing as you try to fit into something that you're not used to. And then there's always the flip side. You play with a guy or gal that's really, really great at knowing what you're going to do, and you guys mesh together really, really well. Then it just has this kind of professional layer to it. But, as you learn to play the guitar, you can really actually kind of meld these two things together, right? There's just a lot of different things that you can pick up on from other musicians. That's why it's very important that you play on these jam tracks, right? And you can get jam tracks anywhere. You can write and record your own jam tracks. If you don't know what you're doing, you can just Google it, Actually Google in jam tracks. So like if you know like a minor pentatonic scale, just look at what the root note is and then Google like, in that case if I'm playing A minor pentatonic, Google A minor backing track or A minor jam track. And there's all kinds of tracks that you can find on the internet. Even professional musicians like Steve Vai, which is one of the coolest things in the world, is that Steve released most of his albums. I'm not sure if he released most of them. I only have a couple of them, but I have all of his albums. But as far as he took his albums and stripped the leads off of them, so there's just the background tracks, and he looped them over and over again. So songs that would normally last like 5-6 minutes last like 15 minutes, and so you can just kind of jam over them. If I get a chance, maybe we'll do some of those too. Steve's jams are really awesome. My problem is I have a tendency to want to make the jams sound like what Steve was playing, right? Which is a good lesson for me, especially if I don't learn what Steve plays. Obviously, if I learn what Steve plays, I have a tendency to kind of put that into what he's doing. But that I don't think was the spirit of why he was releasing those. I think he was releasing those so that we could all have a good time expressing ourselves and being creative over those particular jam tracks, right? So let's do another jam. Let's take a listen to another one. And I really like the sound of that one. That one has a lot of fun. That one, I kind of started off with it's E minor, so start off with E natural minor, right, which is going to contain the C, right, and then I kind of moved to E Dorian. But I think the intention of the track was supposed to be more E Dorian or D major, but again, trying to shoehorn the C natural in there just to see what I can have some fun with, right? Again, there are no wrong notes. Obviously, if I'm playing over an E and you play an E flat, or you play a B flat, people might say, yeah, that's the wrong note. Well, it's not the wrong note. It's just maybe not, it's just a spicy flavor. You think about scary movie music, right? It's those notes that really create those sounds. That flat 5, which is, the Metallica sound, right? So, or all thrash and kind of speed metal-y kind of stuff where, again, it's that flat 5 from the blues scale. If I'm playing E, I'm really going to want to play a B flat. Right? So, but that B flat over the E, that's what creates the tension, right? So in A Nightmare on Elm Street, that flat 5 is what creates the scary sound, right? If I don't play the flat 5, it sounds happy, right? And so the flat 5 is an ugly note, but it has its purpose. And again, so I don't really like to say that there are wrong notes. It's just different flavors. It's like spice, right? Yeah, I know you don't maybe want chili powder in your, we'll say Lucky Charms. Maybe those two flavors don't mix. But I'm sure there's somebody in the world that likes those flavors, right? There's got to be one. And that's really, when you're talking about writing music or creating music, it's just about what you like. It's not what other people like, right? If we start getting into playing what other people like, then we kind of end up with all the songs all sounding the same. And they start to sound formulaic. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people trying to make songs that other people like, because it is a business and you have to try to make other people happy. But ultimately, if you're just not playing the music that you like, and I think the audience can kind of see that you're kind of faking it and not playing the music. So it's again, it's more of about just kind of picking the right spice, right? So let's do another jam. And we'll go ahead and do a little heavier one so it's not so chill, right? definitely a cool jam. I have a lot of fun playing over that one. Again, a lot of the shapes and a lot of the patterns that I'm playing are really just based off of the key of E minor, which is G major, and then always the arpeggios. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about that, although, the pentatonic scale technically is an arpeggio. It's like, I've always looked at the minor pentatonic scale as like a minor 7 arpeggio. It does have the 11 in it, right? Or the 4, however you want to think about it. In this case, it's the A note in E. But those tones, that's why the pentatonic scale sounds so great, right? When you think about playing melodies and you think about playing music, the scales, we always learn scales, right? But the scales themselves aren't the best melodies. They can be, don't get me wrong. But when you play the arpeggio notes, like in this case of E minor, like if I just did, those notes really create a nice melody. So you can hear, like during that last solo, I was doing stuff like, those really create good melodies, as opposed to if I'm just playing the scale straight up. That you can work into a melody, but you got to be a little more careful with it, right? Maybe I will go. But even in that case, I'm still thinking of the arpeggio. I'm still thinking of E, G, and B. And I'm actually just playing. Even when I play the arpeggios quickly, just separating the notes instead of just playing the scale, I'm actually playing just those groups. And you can really hear how that you can kind of sing that back, right? It's so much easier to kind of remember the arpeggio notes because it really just gets you that, I guess that kind of sound of just the sound, right? Obviously, we can go really, really quick on those, and that kind of destroys the sound a little bit. But again, it's still, even at the faster pace, you can kind of hear those particular things, So, and again, it's just being able to play all of those individual things, Let's do another jam. Let's listen to another one. Let's change it up just here a little bit. Let's see what else we got here. Let's try this like A minor ballad. So A minor, what is that going to be, right? A minor, in this particular one, I think if I can remember this one correctly, that's C major or A minor, all natural notes, no sharps or flats. This is a great one if you guys, if you're playing, if you want to improvise with your keyboard, if you're a keyboard player or a piano player, A minor is a great key, obviously, because it's nothing but the white keys. And it again, if you're an accomplished player and you know what you're doing, hey, that's incredible. But we don't want to like limit, music to the people who know what they're doing. Because music is in all of us. Look, you don't need somebody to tell you. Even if you can't even play a musical instrument, you know what you like, right? You know what sounds good and what doesn't sound good to you. You can listen to somebody and go, hey, I don't really like the way that sounds. Even if you don't know what you're doing, that's okay. Now, again, it doesn't mean that there aren't other people that like that sound, but you know what you like. So, again, same thing here. Let's take a listen to this jam. Definitely more kind of a laid-back one, cool. Now that's a good one. I see Yoshi OST asked me about my singing. My singing is actually not. It's okay. It's okay. You know, I can't sing in standard tuning anymore. I'm kind of like, you know, as I've gotten older, I got to detune my guitars a whole step so that I can get everything in the stand. You know, get my voice there. It's not so bad. I don't sing so much anymore. I used to do that a lot. I've always, because of my guitar playing skills, I'm always asked to be the guitar player in most of the stuff we do, or even the bass player, you know. But I do really enjoy singing, and maybe I'll bust it out here for you later. Not today. I don't really have anything to sing over, but you know, that's not really my forte. I really want to focus more on the guitar playing here. But again, singing is another one of those fantastic things to do. One of the things that, you know, I want to kind of talk about here, we're going to kind of, you know, a lot of the little patterns that I did here, again, I'm always breaking up between the pentatonic scale, the blues scale, and the major scale that these came from. And again, we talked a little bit yesterday about, you know, this is kind of Frank Mbali. Frank Mbali has got, you know, Guitar Institute of Technology instructor way back in the day. I think I bought one of his first books called Sweep Picking, or actually Speed Picking, which is, again, I guess I already spoiled it for everybody because it's a hybrid sweep picking method, right? And sweep picking, that's kind of where, you know, that's kind of the difference. We talk about the differences in those pickings real quick. Alternate picking is just to pick purely just straight up and down, right? So if I'm going to play a particular scale, I'm actually alternate picking. So that means I'm playing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And again, so if that means that I have to cross the string and the next stroke is supposed to be an up, I actually do jump over the string and pick it as an up. Now, sweep picking is a lot of times what I'm using when I'm playing the arpeggios, right? When I'm going, I'm actually using just a straight stroke, straight down. Actually, so it's kind of like strumming a chord. It's like going, right? It's just that I time my fingers out to match up those particular tones. Frank's method, actually, which is a really genius method, is that he actually uses a hybrid method where he'll alternate pick when he can, but then he'll sweep kind of at the bottoms of the strings, right? And I don't use that method as much. I kind of use it more just for the straight sweeping and the ideas that we have. But again, it's a fantastic book. Going back farther, though, or actually ahead farther, Frank's got a lot of theory books, and like I said, I got to bring them up. I'll get them out of my library, and I'll show you the covers of them. I'll at least get you the names of them. So definitely, if you're interested in, you know, figuring out how to make scales sound different, because again, you know, you only have 12 notes, and a lot of times when we're soloing, we're really only using about 7 or 8 of those tones, sometimes 9, depending on, you know, if you can superimpose different modes or use the pitch axis. But the idea is using all of those particular things. It's kind of like, you know, if you had 7 crayons that were all, you know, 7 different colors, right? If you took paper and you colored evenly on the paper, all 7 colors, and you did that to 1,000 papers, all the papers would look like a rainbow, and then all the papers would look exactly the same. What you really want to do is you want to start eliminating some of the colors. You know, like, for example, if you took out all the reds and the oranges, it would look more blue and green, right? And if you left out the blue and the green, it would look more, you know, red and orange. Same with when we're soloing. If I play just the full scale all the time and I'm going, using the rainbow of colors that I can play, that's just one color palette. If I eliminate some of those notes, right, and I just play some of them, in this case, like, it gives me definitely a little bit of a different sound. It gives me a little bit of a different flavor, and most importantly, a different color to the hearing, right? And that's what's great about the arpeggios, right? If I play like a C arpeggio and then go to a D, it's a different color palette. It's a different sound or thing that I can actually play. So that's really just what it comes down to, is all those different sounds, right? All right, cool. Let's do another jam. Definitely a good jam there. That one really, mellow B minor, again, D major kind of thing that I'm actually playing there. But that's just one of those things that, as far as being able to play and being able to do all those individual jams, it's a fun thing to kind of transition back and forth between the sounds, too. Let's cue up another one. Let's get kind of something else. Let's see one of the ones we haven't done yet this evening. Let's do, let's kind of do maybe a little more of a heavy rock one here. Let's do, yeah, that's cool. Let's do this one. that one to keep going. I really like that one. And again, these are all just basic jams. They kind of, just I'm not even sure how that one goes. That's kind of the fun part of it, right? I can hear how it goes, and so it's like again, I'm not really paying that close attention to it. Letting my hearing decide where I go on that particular one. And again, I definitely, I understand the theory. I understand what I'm supposed to be playing. I know, trying to play through the changes as opposed to on top of the changes. But again, sometimes you just want to relax. Sometimes you just want to kind of let the notes flow. That's what I'm saying. There are no rules to this. It's really just kind of about capturing the moment and the feeling of what we're doing. Let's do another one. it's kind of a nice way to finish off the jams for this evening. You know, there's so many things that we can play, and there's so many things that we can do musically as far as, just play. I have so many different ideas to share with you, so many different things that hopefully that will help your playing, help you express yourself, and just make the world a better place through music, you know? I mean, music just really does. It just helps us speak to each other and helps us understand just the emotions and feelings that people have without really even having to talk to them, you know? I mean, that's the best thing in the world. And it's a universal language, too, you know? And anybody that, you know, if I don't speak somebody's language, but they play, you know, the same 12 notes that I play, we can kind of jam because we can hear each other and match the notes. It's just a really cool thing. Music is a really awesome thing to be able to share with people. And it's just something that I'm very happy to be able to share with everybody here. And I want you to keep playing, and I want you to keep trying new things. You know, everything that I've played tonight, I've made up on the spot. I have, you know, most of it's went well, some of it hasn't. Who cares? That's just part of it, right? You know, it's being able to kind of express in the moment. You know, some nights I'm up and I've got a lot of energy and I've had a great day and, you know, it's going to come across my playing. Maybe other days I didn't have a great day and I'm kind of down and I'm just kind of not feeling so great. And it still is going to come out of my playing. And that's one of the most awesome things about improvising is that it kind of draws upon how you particularly feel and what you're going to actually play. There are some really cool things if you check them out on the internet. Of musicians playing kind of maybe sad songs where they're kind of sitting there talking, having a good time, and then they start playing the song. You can almost see like their whole demeanor change because they're thinking about the feelings of the song and how it actually goes. And it's just, you know, it's a really awesome thing that they can actually change that. And then, you know, when the song's over, they kind of come back up or, hopefully they're out of whatever vibe it was to actually have the music going. But that's, again, was one of those particular things, you know. And again, you know, one more time before we finish off here, just kind of just listening to the divisions of the music that I play. The basic division is I'm playing the major scale. Let me put all of these in the same key or in the same position. So we'll do them in E minor. So I'll play the E minor scale. I'll play the E pentatonic minor scale. And then the E blues scale. And so really that's just a nice combination of notes, right? It's got me basically playing the minor scale, which is 7 notes. Then I'm going to play the pentatonic scale, which is 5 notes. Of those 7 notes, I've removed 2. And then the blues scale is me adding in one passing tone, a new 8th different note, because the note that I added back in is not one of the 2 notes that I removed, right? Just from a real quick musical theory standpoint, thinking about the notes that I'm playing, E minor is E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, and D. E minor pentatonic is going to remove the F sharp, right? And it's going to remove the C. So I'll just be playing E, G, A, B, and D. And then that scale I'm going to add in B flat, which is the flat 5, or A sharp, the sharp 4, or whatever you want to think about. Sharp 4, same thing as flat 5. When I play that, it goes like this. You can actually add those all together if you wanted to. You could actually go... flat 2 as well. But again, we'll get into that next time. Hey man, it was really great having everybody with us tonight. Once again, this is the Jam and Shred Dojo with Master Lee. I am Christopher Lee Weiss, aka Master Lee, and this is Junkie Bass. Have a great night, guys. Peace.